The two native women stood in Grady Wildfire's doorway like judgment itself. Wind howled through the pines behind them. Snow dusted their shoulders. "Mountain Man," the taller one said. Her hand rested on a bone knife. "5 days ago you saved Tahoma Brightstar. We demand your love." Grady's rifle stopped halfway to his shoulder. The cleaning rag fell to the cabin floor. The second woman stepped forward. She carried a bundle wrapped in elk hide. "The debt can only be paid through marriage. Choose one of us." "Ladies," Grady set the rifle against the stone hearth, "I think there's been some mistake." "No mistake." The tall one's eyes held winter storms. "You fed our chief's grandson when death stalked him. Sacred law binds us to you now." The fire crackled in the silence. Outside, an owl called through the darkness. 3 days earlier, Grady had found the boy collapsed near Willow Creek. Half frozen, ribs showing through torn buckskin, the child's lips had been blue as mountain shadows. Grady lived alone for good reason. People brought complications. They brought questions about his past. But he couldn't leave a dying child in the snow. He'd carried the boy home, fed him the last of his preserved elk meat, wrapped him in his warmest furs. The fever broke on the second day. "My grandfather is Chief Standing Bear," the boy had whispered. "I got lost during my first hunt." Grady had walked him back to tribal lands, left him at the boundary stones, thought that was the end of it. Now these women stood in his cabin like storm clouds made flesh. "I don't understand your customs," Grady said, "but I can't marry someone I just met." The gentle one spoke for the first time. "You saved the future of our people. The spirits guided your hand. We are Ahioka and Wenonah. We come to honor the debt." Ahioka, the tall one with storm eyes. Wenonah, soft-spoken but iron underneath. "I helped a hungry child." Grady moved to the window, checked the forest beyond. "Nothing more. Everything is more to the Great Spirit." Ahioka's voice carried authority. "You cannot escape what you've done." "And what exactly have I done?" "Saved a life, created obligation, changed the path of fate." Wenonah unwrapped her bundle. Beadwork glinted in the firelight. "These are wedding gifts. From our tribe to yours." Grady had no tribe. He'd left that world behind when he walked away from his cavalry unit, when he'd seen what civilized men could do to innocent families. "You're wasting your time." He turned from the window. "I'm not the marrying kind." Ahioka smiled without warmth. "The spirits care nothing for your preferences. The spirits can find someone else. They already have." Wenonah spread the beadwork on his rough table. "They found you." Wind rattled the cabin walls. Snow began falling harder. Grady watched the women through the dancing shadows. Neither moved toward the door. "How long do you plan to stay?" "Until you choose." Ahioka checked her knife. "However long that takes. Could be forever." "Then forever it is." Grady had built this cabin to escape the world, hidden it where no roads led, where no visitors came. The wilderness was his sanctuary, his penance. Now it felt like a trap. He studied the women in the firelight. Ahioka stood like a warrior, every muscle ready. Wenonah moved with a healer's grace. Her touch would be gentle, deadly when needed. Both were beautiful, both were strangers. "What if I refuse? What if I ride out tonight and never come back?" Wenonah's face went pale. "Then Tahoma dies. The boy's safe. I saw him home. Safe from winter, not from shame." Ahioka moved closer to the fire. "If you reject the sacred debt, he becomes cursed, exiled. No tribe will take him." "That's not my fault." "It became your fault when you chose to help him." Grady poured himself whiskey from a clay jug. Didn't offer any to his guests. The liquor burned like regret. "So I save a child's life and get punished for it. You get rewarded." Wenonah's voice stayed soft. "With love, with family, with belonging. I don't want those things. The spirits know better than you what you want." Grady laughed without humor. "The spirits don't know me very well." "They know you fed a starving child your last food," Ahioka said. "They know you carried him through a blizzard. They know you asked for nothing in return. That's just human decency." "Exactly." Wenonah folded the beadwork with careful hands. "That's why they chose you." Outside, wolves began howling. The sound echoed off the canyon walls. Grady had always found comfort in that wild music. Tonight it sounded like morning. I need time to think. Time you have. Ahioka moved toward the door. We'll wait. Where? Outside. Under the stars our ancestors watch from. It's snowing, you'll freeze. Winona gathered her bundle. We survived winters before you were born, mountain man. We'll survive this one. They stepped into the storm. Grady watched through his window as they built a shelter from pine boughs, as they kindled a fire with practiced efficiency, as they settled in to wait. He barred his door, banked his fire, lay on his narrow cot staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the boy's face, hollow cheeks, grateful smile, the trust in those young eyes when Grady had lifted him from the snow. Now that same trust might doom them all. Wind howled through the gaps in his walls. Outside, the women's fire flickered against the darkness, patient, determined, inevitable as sunrise. Grady pulled his blankets tighter and waited for dawn, wondered if morning would bring answers or just more complications. The debt had been cast, the choice demanded. There was no going back to the life he'd built in these mountains, the solitude he'd carved from wilderness and regret. Two strangers had walked into his world carrying marriage bundles and ancient laws. They'd turned his sanctuary into a courtroom where spirits served as judge and jury. All because he'd shown mercy to a dying child. All because kindness once offered could never be taken back. Dawn brought no relief. The women remained by their fire. Smoke rose straight up in the still air. No wind to scatter their resolve. Grady stepped onto his porch. Frost crunched under his boots. You can't stay out here forever. Ahioka looked up from sharpening her knife. We can stay longer than you think. Winona tended a pot of something that smelled of sage and pine bark. Her movements held ritual precision, every gesture deliberate. At least come inside, warm yourselves. Warmth is earned, Ahioka said, not given freely. But Winona rose, followed him into the cabin. Ahioka waited a moment before joining them. Pride wrestled with practicality. Practicality won. They sat around his table, strangers sharing space. The silence stretched tight as bowstring. Tell me about this debt, Grady said finally. Winona poured tea from her pot. The liquid steamed amber in the morning light. When life is saved, life is owed. The spirits demand balance. And if I refuse, the balance tips. Ahioka accepted the tea but didn't drink. Darkness follows. Tahoma suffers for your kindness. That makes no sense. Sense is for the living world, Winona said. This is spirit law, older than reason. Grady sipped the tea. It tasted of mountains and memory, of things he'd tried to forget. What aren't you telling me? The women exchanged glances, a conversation without words. Tahoma is not just any child, Ahioka said finally. He carries the bloodline of chiefs. The prophecies speak of him, prophecies. A young leader who will unite the scattered tribes, bring peace to the hunting grounds. Winona's voice dropped to whisper, your intervention was foretold. I don't believe in prophecies. Belief is not required. Ahioka set down her cup. Only action. Outside, horses approached, hoofbeats on frozen ground. Grady moved to the window. 3 riders emerged from the pine shadows. More of your people. Tahoma comes, Winona said. With his guards. The boy looked healthier now, color in his cheeks, strength in his movements. He dismounted and ran to the cabin. Spirit Walker, he called. You saved my life, Spirit Walker. The name sat heavy on Grady's shoulders. The boy's guards remained mounted, watching, waiting, their faces carved from stone and suspicion. I gave you food, Grady said, nothing more. Food becomes strength, strength becomes future. Future becomes hope. Tahoma smiled with the wisdom of someone too young to carry it. The elders say you were chosen. The elders say many things. They say you knew Lieutenant Gabriel Morrison. The words hit Grady like winter wind, his past rising from the depths where he'd buried it. Ahioka studied his face, reading the truth written there. They say Morrison warned Chief Standing Bear about the cavalry attack. Saved many lives. Tahoma's eyes held innocence and knowing combined. They say Morrison was a good soldier who chose conscience over orders. Grady's hands tightened on his rifle. Old habits died hard. Morrison disappeared after that, one of the guards said. Vanished into the mountains. Men disappear for many reasons, Grady replied. Good men disappear when the world becomes too cruel for their hearts, Winona said quietly. She knew they all knew. The tribe remembers its friends, Ahioka said, even when they forget themselves. Tahoma stepped closer. The spirits guided you to me, just as they guided Lieutenant Morrison to warn my grandfather. You are the same man, the same heart. Grady set his rifle against the wall, sat heavily in his chair. The weight of hidden years pressed down. That man died a long time ago. That man saved 67 people, one guard said. Women, children, elders, all alive because he chose honor over duty. And now he saved one more, Winona added, the most important one. I'm not a prophet, not a spirit walker. I'm just a man who made mistakes. Mistakes that saved lives are not mistakes, Tahoma said. They are gifts from the Great Spirit. The boy moved to the window, looked out at the wilderness that had become Grady's prison. You live alone because you think you failed your people, but you didn't fail us, you became one of us. I'm not Indian. You have an Indian heart, Ahioka said. It beats for justice, for protecting the innocent. Hearts can change, not yours. Winona refilled his cup. That's why we were sent to you. The guards grew restless, shifted in their saddles, watching the tree line for threats. We should go, Tahoma said, before the soldiers find our trail. What soldiers? Cavalry patrol 2 days behind us. The boy's face darkened. They track horse prints, ask questions in the settlements. Grady's blood went cold. His old unit, still hunting deserters after all these years. They won't find this place. They found other places, one guard said, other hidden camps, other men who chose conscience. The cabin suddenly felt smaller, the walls thinner. His sanctuary was becoming a trap. How long do I have? Maybe a week, Tahoma said, maybe less. Then I need to leave. Where will you go? Winona asked. The mountains only stretch so far. There are other mountains. Running won't change the debt, Ahioka said firmly. The spirits will follow. Let them follow. And let Tahoma suffer for your cowardice. The word stung because it held truth. He'd been running for 3 years from his past, from his choices, from the weight of lives saved and lives lost. What exactly do you want from me? Choose, both women said together. Choose what? Which of us you'll marry, Ahioka said. Which of us will bear your children? Which of us will stand beside you when the soldiers come? I can't choose between strangers. Then get to know us, Winona said simply. The guards moved their horses closer. Time was running short. We'll return tomorrow, Tahoma said, with more of our people to witness your decision. And if I still refuse, the boy's face went grave beyond his years. Then I face exile, and you face the spirit's judgment. They mounted and rode away, hoofbeats fading into forest silence. Grady stood on his porch, watched them disappear. The women remained by their fire, patient as stone. You knew, he said finally. About Morrison, about everything. We knew a good man when we found one, Ahioka replied. Good men don't desert their units. Bad men don't warn their enemies about attacks, Winona countered. Evening fell across the mountains. Stars emerged one by one. The fire crackled between them. 3 people bound by circumstances none had chosen. Tell me about yourselves, Grady said. Ahioka fed branches to the flames. I am the chief's daughter, trained to fight, expected to marry for politics. And you, he asked Winona, I heal the sick, tend the wounded, love a warrior named Canash. Then why are you here? Because duty calls louder than the heart. Sometimes. Always, she corrected. Until now. The fire burned lower. Shadows deepened. Truth emerged in the darkness between words. Tomorrow would bring more complications, more choices, more consequences for kindness offered to a dying child. But tonight there was just the fire, the stars, the weight of debts both owed and owing. The mountains held their secrets close, but some secrets were too heavy for even stone to carry. 3 days passed in careful circles. Grady chopped wood. The women tended their fire. Nobody spoke of debts or marriage. The silence held weight. On the fourth morning, riders came, 12 warriors on painted horses. They moved through the pines without sound. Only the jingle of bone ornaments announced their presence. Ahioka stood, smoothed her buckskin dress. The council arrives. At their head rode a young man with scars across his chest. His eyes found Winona first, held her gaze with desperate hunger. "Canash," she whispered. He dismounted, moved toward her with controlled violence, every step measured, every breath controlled. "You were sent to honor the debt," he said, "not to camp in the wilderness. The mountain man has not chosen. Then I will choose for him." Canash's hand went to his war club. The other warriors formed a loose circle, trapping them all in ceremony. "You cannot fight tradition," Ahioka said. "I can fight him." Canash pointed at Grady. "Winner takes Winona." "That's not how this works," Grady said. "It's how I make it work." The warriors murmured approval. Combat was language they understood. Clean, simple, final. "What about the spirits?" Winona asked. "What about sacred law?" "The spirits respect strength," Canash replied. "They honor warriors who claim what's theirs. I'm not yours to claim. You were, before this debt poisoned everything." Winona's face went pale. The truth hung between them heavy as storm clouds. "You love him," Grady said. "Love doesn't matter, duty matters." But her voice broke on the words. Canash stepped closer. "Fight me, spirit walker, or watch me take her anyway. And if I win, you won't." Ahioka moved between them. "This solves nothing. The debt remains. The spirits still demand payment." "The spirits can have my blood instead," Canash said. "Your blood won't save Tahoma." The boy's name stopped the brewing violence. Warriors looked at each other, remembered why they'd come. "There's another way," Grady said slowly. "What way?" "Trial by truth." The words fell into silence. Ancient words, half remembered from stories told around winter fires. "That ritual died with our grandfathers," one warrior said. "Did it?" Grady looked at each face in turn. "Or did we just forget?" Ahioka's eyes widened. "You would invoke the old laws. I would try to save everyone, including yourself, especially myself." The warriors spoke in their own language. Quick, urgent, deciding. "What is trial by truth?" Canash demanded. "Sacred ceremony," an elder warrior explained. "All parties speak their heart's desire before the Great Spirit. Truth releases false bonds. Lies bring death. Death, the spirits know dishonesty, they punish it." Grady felt the weight of their attention. "I'm willing to risk it." "Why?" "Because I'm tired of running from the truth." Winona moved closer. "What truth?" "That I've been hiding in these mountains for 3 years, afraid to live, afraid to die, afraid to choose." His voice carried across the clearing, reached into corners where shame lived. "I told myself I was protecting people by staying away, but I was just protecting myself." Canash's grip loosened on his war club. "From what?" "From caring, from responsibility, from the chance of failing again." The warriors made their decision, spoke in unison. "We accept trial by truth." "When?" Ahioka asked. "Tonight, under the full moon, with all the tribe as witness." They rode away to prepare, left the 3 of them alone with the dying fire. "You don't understand what you've done," Winona said. "I understand enough. The spirits demand absolute honesty. One lie kills everyone. Then we tell the truth. What if the truth damns us all?" Grady looked at the mountains surrounding them. His prison, his sanctuary, his past and future combined. "Then we're damned honestly." Afternoon crawled toward evening. The women prepared for ceremony. Grady cleaned his rifle one last time. Tomorrow it might not matter. "Are you afraid?" Ahioka asked. "Terrified." "Good, fear keeps men honest." "What will you say tonight?" "The truth." She tested her knife edge. "What will you say?" "I don't know yet. The spirits will know if you lie. Then I'll find truth worth dying for." Evening came with drums. Distant at first, growing closer, the sound of ceremony, of judgment, of endings. Warriors appeared between the trees, not 12 now, dozens, the entire tribe coming to witness. Chief standing bare road at their center. Old, scarred. Eyes that had seen too much war. "Spirit Walker," he said, "you invoke the ancient ways. I invoke the only way that saves everyone, or kills everyone." "Yes," the chief smiled. "I like honesty. It's rare in desperate men." They built a great fire in the clearing, arranged stones in sacred patterns, prepared for ritual older than memory. Tahoma appeared with the other children, his face grave, understanding the weight of what was happening. "If you die tonight, I die too," he said simply. "I know." "Are you ready?" Grady looked at Ahioka, at Winona, at Canash pacing the circle's edge. "I'm ready to try." The moon rose full and bright. Silver light bathed the gathering, made shadows dance at the fire's edge. Chief Standing Bear raised his staff. The drums stopped. "We gather for trial by truth. Let all who would speak step forward." 4 figures entered the circle: Grady, Ahioka, Winona, Canash. "The rules are ancient, the penalty final. Speak only truth or face the spirit's justice." Wind stirred the fire. Sparks rose toward the stars. "Who speaks first?" Canash stepped forward. "I will speak first." His voice carried across the silence, reached every ear, every heart. "I love Winona Lightfeather, have loved her since we were children, would die to protect her, would kill to keep her." Truth rang in his words, pure, undeniable. "But I will not force love where duty stands. If the spirits demand her sacrifice, I accept their will." He stepped back. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool air. Winona moved into the firelight. "I love Canash Thunderheart, have loved him since I understood what love means." Her voice broke, steadied, continued. "But I honor the debt owed to Spirit Walker. He saved Tahoma's life. My personal desires cannot outweigh that sacred obligation." She paused, looked directly at Grady. "I respect the mountain man, could learn to care for him, but my heart belongs to another." Ahioka took her place. The fire painted her face in gold and shadow. "I am daughter of chiefs, trained for leadership, expected to marry for politics, not passion." She turned toward Grady. "But this man intrigues me, his courage, his conscience, his willingness to die for strangers." The admission hung in the air, unexpected, dangerous. "I would choose him freely, without debt, without obligation, if he would have me." Now Grady stood alone in the circle, all eyes upon him. The weight of 4 lives in his hands, truth or death. No middle ground. He thought of the boy dying in the snow, of the choice that started everything. "I came to these mountains to hide," he began. The words came slowly, pulled from depths he tried to seal. "I was Lieutenant Gabriel Morrison. I warned Chief Standing Bear about the cavalry attack. I saved lives, then I ran." His voice grew stronger, clearer. "I've been running ever since, from responsibility, from connection, from the chance of failing people who trusted me." Fire crackled. Wind sighed through the pines. "But I'm done running. I choose Ahioka, not from debt, not from obligation. Because she sees who I could become instead of who I've been." Silence stretched. The spirits weighed truth against lies. Chief Standing Bear raised his staff. "The spirits have heard. The old law applies." Thunder rolled across clear sky. Lightning without storm. "The debt is paid, the truth has set you free." Lightning faded. Thunder rolled away. The spirits had spoken through storm and silence. Chief Standing Bear lowered his staff. "The ancient law is satisfied. Truth has broken false bonds." Canash moved first, crossed the circle to Winona, took her hands in his. "You are free," he said. "We are free," she corrected. They embraced. The tribe murmured approval. Love recognized, honor satisfied. Ahioka remained in the firelight, waiting, her choice made, her heart exposed. Grady stepped toward her. "The debt is paid. Yes, this would be your free choice?" "It would." "Then I choose freely too." He took her hand. Felt calloused fingers, strong grip, the touch of someone who fought for what mattered. The fire burned lower. The ceremony ended, but the consequences had just begun. 3 months later, cavalry came. Grady saw the dust cloud first. Blue uniforms moving through the valley. His old unit, still hunting ghosts. "How many?" Ahioka asked. 20, maybe more." She checked her rifle. They'd built the new cabin with gun ports, prepared for this day. We could run. Where? North, into Canada. Running won't solve anything. It might buy time. I'm done buying time. The soldiers made camp at the valley's mouth, blocking the only easy exit, professional, thorough, deadly. That evening, a single rider approached under white flag. Colonel Harrison, Grady's former commander, older now, grayer, but the same cold eyes. "Lieutenant Morrison," he called. "We need to talk." Grady stepped onto his porch. Ahioka beside him, armed, ready. "I'm not your lieutenant anymore. Desertion doesn't end military service, it suspends it. What do you want, Harrison? Your surrender, court-martial. Proper punishment for abandoning your unit. I abandoned murder, not duty. You abandoned orders. Illegal orders." The colonel dismounted, moved closer. His hand stayed near his sidearm. "The massacre at Willow Creek was regrettable, but necessary. Murdering women and children is never necessary. It ended the war in this territory. It started a new one." Wind stirred the grass between them, carried the scent of pine and possibility. "Come back with me, Morrison. Face judgment, accept responsibility." "I've found my responsibility here. Playing house with savages." Ahioka's rifle barrel shifted slightly, not pointed at Harrison, not pointed away. "Careful, Colonel. You've gone native. Lost perspective." "I've found it." Harrison studied the cabin, the garden, the signs of life being built instead of destroyed. "I have my orders, Morrison. Then follow them. Even if it means burning this place down. Even then." The colonel remounted. "You have until dawn to decide. Surrender or face the consequences." He rode away, left them with sunset and choices. "We could fight," Ahioka said. 20 against 2, those aren't good odds. I've faced worse." "I haven't. Not anymore." Night brought counsel. Winona and Canash arrived with a dozen warriors. Chief standing bare rode in after midnight. "The soldiers threaten war," the chief said. "Only if we give them one." "What do you propose?" Grady looked at the faces around the fire. People who'd become family, purpose, home. "I surrender, alone, keep everyone else safe." "No." Ahioka's voice cut like winter wind. "We stand together. You didn't desert, I did. You saved lives, that's not desertion. The army disagrees. The army is wrong." Chief Standing Bear raised his hand. "There is another way." "What way?" "The old treaties. The ones Washington signed." Grady frowned. "Those were broken years ago." "Were they, or were they just forgotten?" The chief produced a leather pouch. "Ancient papers, yellow with age. Treaty of 1834. This land belongs to the tribe. White law has no authority here. Harrison won't recognize that. He'll recognize federal marshals. You called for marshals 3 days ago, when the cavalry entered tribal lands without permission." Hope stirred, fragile as new grass. "How long until they arrive?" "Tomorrow, maybe the day after." "Can we hold out that long?" "We can try." Dawn brought tension thick as morning fog. The soldiers formed battle lines. The tribe took defensive positions. Grady stood between them, two worlds balanced on knife's edge. "Last chance, Morrison," Harrison called. "I'm not coming, Colonel." "Then you've chosen your fate." "We all have." The standoff stretched. Hours passed, nerves frayed, fingers tightened on triggers. Then dust rose from the eastern pass. New riders, different uniforms. Federal marshals with legal authority. Harrison's face went gray. His orders didn't extend to fighting federal law. Marshal Kane rode between the lines. "Stand down, Colonel. This is military business. On federal tribal land. Without proper authority. I have orders. I have jurisdiction." The marshal produced papers, official seals, legal weight. "Lieutenant Morrison is under federal protection as a witness in the Willow Creek investigation." Harrison's mouth opened. Closed, opened again. "What investigation?" "War Crimes Tribunal. Washington wants answers about civilian casualties." "Those were enemy combatants." "The evidence suggests otherwise." Grady stepped forward. "I'll testify. Tell them what really happened." "That's all we ask." The soldiers withdrew, slowly, reluctantly, but they withdrew. Justice would come, but not from the end of a rope. 6 months later, the tribunal ended. Harrison faced court-martial. The massacre victims received recognition. The truth emerged from years of lies. Grady returned to his valley, to his wife, to the life they'd built from kindness and consequences. Tahoma visited often, learning two worlds, preparing for leadership, growing strong on truth instead of hatred. "Why did you save me that day?" he asked once. "Because you needed saving. That's all. Sometimes that's everything." They sat by the expanded cabin. Smoke rose from both hearth and distant tribal fires. Two communities, one future. Ahioka emerged from the garden, dirt on her hands, life growing in the soil. "Supper's ready. What are we having?" "Whatever you caught, whatever I grew, whatever we made together." The boy laughed, ran toward the smell of cooking food. Grady watched him go, remembered another boy, starving in the snow, the choice that changed everything. Kindness offered freely. Love earned honestly. Truth spoken bravely. The debt was paid, the balance restored, the circle complete. In the distance, wolves sang to the rising moon. Wild music for wild hearts. The sound of freedom earned through courage. The sound of home. And that is all to the story for now. Please let me know where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will create a story there. Consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. And if you enjoy our content, click this video on your screen. I promise you it's worth watching. See you tomorrow.